Okay, welcome back. We're talking about the difference between overloading and overriding. Now, overriding, we're gonna talk about that again in an upcoming chapter, but we've used it, so I just wanted to give it to you now. Okay, so on page 236, they go over it one more time about scope and variables. A variable declared inside a method is only visible inside that method. So remember I talked about how it has to deal with curly braces? Well, kinda, okay? For example, these variables, the first name and friend, technically it's not inside the curly brace, but you can kind of sort of tell, right? So those variables that are declared in the header or inside the curly brace have the scope inside, okay? So just a slight modification of the rules. Make sense? Okay, now I'm going to do some practical demonstrations, things that are kind of sort of suitable for perhaps a upcoming homework assignment or something. Let's assume, for example, that you have an array. Now, we haven't talked about arrays much, and we got an upcoming chapter that's going to do that. So I'm just kind of gloss over that. If you don't understand arrays, that's okay. We're coming back to it. All right. So I'm going to go down here and I'm going to declare me a couple of new variables. One of them is going to be, I'm going to do public static. I'm going to make it final, which means constant. Int, and we're going to say num values, and I'm going to make it 100. Okay, cool. And then I'm going to create me a private array of doubles. How about some array, since I don't really know what it is. Okay, and it's going to equal to new num values. Okay, so I've created me a brand new array, and it doesn't have anything in it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create me a method that puts values in the array, because I made this array is private, which means from outside this class, no one can see what's on line 66. So it's a very common thing that you would have a method that will allow you to do things that you could not do directly. In other words, from another application or from another class, I could not get to line 66 because it's private. So instead of changing the scope, the access modifier to make it public, which would be a dumb idea, instead I'm going to make a public method that allows me to get there. Okay? So here we go. So I'm going to say something like public void, because it's not returning anything, and I'm going to say, I don't know, like put in array. Something, right? So to put something in an array, I need two things. One is, where is it you want me to put it? I mean, this array has 100 values between 0 and 99. So where do you want it? So there's going to be a variable. I'm going to call it index, because a lot of people use the term index to mean where in an array something goes. Okay? And then the other is going to be what the actual value is. And I don't know what the value is, so I'm going to call it value. Okay, now, one of the purposes for having a method, I mean, I could just go ahead and do this. I could say some array index is equal to value. Okay, I could do that. That works. Ta-da! But I'm missing an opportunity to do some input validation. What if my index is way, way off, like a -4 or a 4,000? So instead of this would trip an error and crash your program. So maybe instead what you want to do is to do some testing inside here. So now my method, not only does it allow me to get to an array that I can't see, it also allows me the opportunity to do some input validation. So before I assign the value of this dang thing, I need to check to see if it even makes any sense. So I'm going to say something like if index is less than 0 or index is greater than or equal to num values. All right, now why did I have greater than or equal to? So because if it was 100, that would be an error, right? So now I'm going to display something, something like ET display pin, oops, that's a bad index. And then I want out. I want off the merry-go-round. I want to stop this guy cold in its track. So I'm going to do a return, which means it will not put anything in the array because I know darn well the array index is off. Okay? So now, what did I just do? Okay. I created a method that allows me access to something that I could not normally see, and I'm doing input validation on it to make sure that the user doesn't accidentally send me an index of 4,000 when my array only has 100 in it. Okay? So methods are very, very handy. Okay? Let's do one more method that we could use to do input validation. Let's say, for example, that somebody was prompting you for your age. Okay? Well, I need a way to see if everything is okay. All right? So here we go. I'm just going to start this guy up. And I'm going to say public int, because I want this thing to return what the value of this thing is. So, and I'm going to say validate int. Okay? That's what I'm going to be in other words, that's the name of my method. Validate validate my integer. So what am I passing to it? Well, I'm going to pass to it the string value of whatever, whatever thing it is, a string constant. And then I'm going to have like a min value and a max value. Okay. So there are three things that can go wrong when you're trying to convert a string into a number. So the first one, case one, is it empty? So I'm just going to do a little thing here and say if buffer is equal to null or buffer length is equal to 0. There. Phew. Okay. So the first case is, does it have anything in it at all? If it's null, well then I just want to spit something out that says, hey man, you can't. This can't be done null. So display append something like, oops, the string can't be null. Maybe you wouldn't actually use the word string. It should be something like text or something that normal human beings could understand, but I'm doing a demo here. So that's one of the things. So if you get this far, I'm done. I can do a return of whatever my answer is, which unfortunately I forgot to do. So I'm going to go back up to here and say int. And one of the key things you can do is you can have like a minus, start off with an impossible number like a -1. Maybe what you want to do is min value -1. Okay, something like that. Okay, so that's the first test. The second test is going to be, does it convert? Well, we don't have the skills, the tools yet to do expressions. I mean, exceptions. So I'm going to fake this part. Okay, I'm just going to assume that, everything works. I know that's a horrible assumption. Assume this works. Okay, so I'm going to say int temp is equal to, and I'm going to do integer dot parse int buffer. And again, I'm just going to assume this thing works. And then the third thing that you look for is it inside the range? So you'd have another if statement here that basically said, okay, if temp is less than min value, or temp is greater than max value. Dang, I can't type. Well, then I'd spit out yet another error message and yet another one of these guys. So outside of range or something. And then if that's not the case, well, then I can finally say that the answer is equal to temp and to return temp. I mean, return answer. Whew. Okay. All right. Now, this is a 3 little tests. Now, again, if you were only doing this once, you'd say, okay, whatever, dude. But let me just go up to here. And let's do something like I'm going to work on age. So it would be int age is equal to, validate int. And then I'm going to put like 12. And then so the minimum is going to be like 0 and the maximum is going to be like 120. Okay, that kind of makes sense. And then I will turn right around and ask for your score for some tests or something. So validate int. And the thing is, I don't know, you made it 88. And the min value is 0. The max value is 100. And I don't know, you just keep on going, right? Whatever the thing is, you just... So I'm using this validate int like 3 different times, and I'm not making any changes to the method whatsoever because it's so generic that it'll work for validating an age or validating a score. I don't have to go to the method and make any changes. Okay, good. So this is, I don't know, IQ. Validate int. And I don't know, you're a dang near genius here. You got a 120. And min value, I'm going to say 50 because if you have lower than 50, you probably ought not be in college. And I'm going to say 200. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm validating whether or not the stuff is legit. So I'm going to go in here, I'm going to run this. Okay, hang on. Doggone it. Let me just grab one of these guys. It's so much easier just to cut and paste. Then, all right, pardon me where I fix all this up. Okay, I got this guy all squared away. Let's go see what he looks like. And so my age is 12, my score is 88, my IQ is 120. Now let me just put in something just to mess with it. So for example, for here, I'm going to put in a 4. Okay? And then we're going to rerun this guy. And it says, oops, the value is outside the range, so age now is a -1. Okay, so what was the purpose for doing all this in a method? Because methods are kind of sort of tailor-made for doing things like input validation. I've got some strings that I'm trying to convert, and if I just did it one time, okay, maybe I don't need to have a method. But if I'm going to do it 4 or 5 times, or if I think I'm going to need this in some other application, I'm going to go ahead and write a method. Okay, that kind of makes sense. Now, unfortunately, it's not going to solve this problem. Because we don't have the tools yet to solve this problem. But let me just show you what happens. It's not pretty. It goes, doink, poof, gone. It broke. Okay, so what have you learned? Methods are really designed for breaking things up, for reusable code. For example, I'm validating the integers in 3 different scenarios, and I didn't have to touch the method after I wrote it just one time. I don't have to mess with it ever again, which is kind of cool. All right, you guys following all this? Even the example about how a method can allow you to get access to things that you can't normally see, plus doing input validation. Okay, we only got a little bit more to go, but as usual, running out of time.